Hi everyone, hope you can hear me now. Welcome and good afternoon to everyone who have joined here. I do see Dr. Andre has joined in and Ahmed Alassan also has joined in. Welcome everyone. And on a Saturday afternoon, yeah, definitely. For some of you, it's week off, and for some of you, it's still working. Well, I would really appreciate for the time that you have taken for this quick learning session that you're going to have. Basically, it's going to be more of an interactive session because I've been getting questions, and I have had these questions in the past. Hi everyone, hope you can hear me now. Welcome. So I really wanted to go ahead and address these questions to everyone. So just give it a couple of minutes for a few more people to join in, and then we could get started. And in the meantime, if you have any questions that you want to ask, you could start posting your questions in the comments. And as and when I go through the session, I will take your comments too. All right. So now we need to understand what a software development life cycle is. I do see a couple of users have joined in. Thank you, Simi. Thank you, Suresh, for joining the uh, discussion. All right. So now software development is very, very important because every EHR, that is your electronic health record, is a software. Okay. And this is a standard life cycle which every software has to go through, or it is the most recommended. Um, it's the most recommended steps. I still have people telling me that they can't hear me. Probably. Okay. Some people are confirming they can. Okay. Some cannot. All right. I hope it is just a small technical glitch. All right. So software development is a standard guideline, okay, or a process, okay, which every software has to go through. Okay. So your EHR is a software. Okay. So you need to come up with these particular steps in mind. These are your ground line. It is your ground line. Okay. You can't cross these ground lines. First, you start with analysis. Okay. So analysis is the key. So if you get any question or any requirement or any enhancement, okay, we'll talk about these jargons later. Okay, if you get a request, okay, you need to analyze the request, and then once your request has been analyzed and you finalize, okay, you would then go ahead and design it. Okay, now when it comes to designing, we will go through these individual components later. Okay, but I'm just going through the high level overview of the life cycle for software development so that you will understand where this discussion is going to head towards by the end of this discussion. Okay, then it's the design. So you will go ahead with the most practical design, okay, which has got the least impact on the system and the best outcome. And then you would move it on to development or implementation. Implementation over here does not mean that you are implementing a solution. This is just a technical implementation. And then testing. Yeah, testing has to be one of the core drives of your software development. Without testing, if you are trying to move the content into the production domain or into the live domain, then it is a disaster for sure. Then after your successful testing, there's also a very periodic way or very rigid rigorous way of testing content. And once your testing has got a green light, then you would go ahead with the deployment. But once deployment is done, you're not done with it, then you would go ahead with the maintenance. Okay, then again, if there is a new requirement, it is analysis, design, development, testing, deployment, maintenance. So this mantra has to be with you all the time. Let it be a minor fix or one of the biggest enhancement or a new rollout or a new integration project that you're doing. Whatever you're doing, now you have to go through this life cycle. Okay, especially if you're making a change on the software. Okay, now the next most important aspect, okay, would be, what kind of process are you going to follow for software development. Okay, so that there are different processes that have been defined over a period of time but the most recent and the most successful and the more very efficiently voted methodology is the agile methodology. Okay, so now you would see a lot of people getting themselves certified in the agile methodology. A lot of people are now becoming scrum masters. Okay, now this is a very high level overview of agile methodology. First, you meet with the right stakeholders. Okay, that's the most important thing. You don't take a decision on your own. You meet the right stakeholders. Okay, all the stakeholders is where we go ahead and define who are the people who would contribute, okay, for the success of this particular change or this particular rollout or this particular enhancement. Then you plan. All of you together should come up with a plan, and this plan is going to be in different iterations. Okay, and this plan has to be with sprints. That means a short sprint, a short goal. You achieve it, you complete it, and then you move on to the next sprint. You move on to the next sprint. It's like having in a marathon of 10 kilometers. Okay, you're going to have 100 into 100 sprints. Okay, so that's how you're going to plan, because these are quick, these are controllable, and these are well planned, well executed. And if there is a fallback, it's only within the 100 meters, and again you will fall back into the circle back again. All right, so the rework is always less. And in agile, if you see, the activities happen in parallel. Then comes the design phase. How you're going to design the software or the solution that you want. Then it's the development. Then after the development, it's the testing, evaluate. Okay, and if there is a fallback, again you meet, you plan, you design, develop, test, and evaluate. All right, now coming to the reason why I had these two slides is, okay, now many of us will have this question: what do I need to do? Okay, so now you need to understand where you are going to fit in, how you're going to fit in. Okay, are you going to be a tester? Are you going to be onto the development side, or you're just the core design? Okay, we have design masters. Okay, we have design experts. Okay, so you have an UI design engineer. Okay, you will have a backend database architecture design engineer. Okay, then you have workflow design engineer, then operations design engineer. Okay, all these are under designs. Analysis, if you're a business analyst, you would fall into this particular role. Okay, deployment would be all your implementation roles. Okay, or everyone who was an implementation specialist, an architect, all these people would be heavily utilized inside this particular zone. Maintenance is where all your support engineers come in place. Now, where you would fit in, yes, at times you may have to fit into all these particular roles, but that is not recommended. Okay, you need to pick and choose the right role. Okay, and you will be the liaison, okay, between these different teams. Okay, now if you have become an analyst, okay, and you would ensure that the requirements are finalized, okay, and the requirements are signed off from the right stakeholders, and then you would pass it on to the technical team. Okay, when you're passing on to the technical team, you would not pass it on with the jargons, okay, of an analyst, but you will pass it on with the attributes a technical developer will understand. So that is where now the most important thing is the documentation. So when I'm talking about documentation, so as and when you have questions, you are free to post your questions in the chat, and I'll pick them up. Okay, and this is my first live session on LinkedIn. I hope it gets better as we go forward. All right, so there would be some glitches which we have already seen in the start. So please feel free to post your questions, and I'll take it up. All right. So now the most important aspect, I mean, which I have learned during my 10 years of role as an informatician, is documentation. You need to have proper documentation in place. You need to have accurate documentation in place. All right, and this documentation should be maintained with a proper version number and the changes that you've done for each versions and the sign off that you get from each stakeholders. Okay, now this is important because it's kind of a process that you follow. Okay, and at each point you would know where you need to fall back if there is a failure. Okay, so your plan B is always in place if your documentation is up to date. Okay, so I would quickly show you, okay, a glimpse of what documentation am I talking about. Okay, so this is one of the um, I would say this is one of the workflows that we did. Okay, so I would like to share this workflow with you. Okay, now this workflow that you create, okay, could be self-explanatory workflow, like how you see on this particular slide, or you could have a bunch of text, a paragraph of text, or you could have your Visio diagram. This is actually an enhanced Visio diagram, okay, where infographics is the new trend, where you have much better infographics in the market. But this is just for demonstration's sake. I wanted to show you this particular slide. Okay, now if you notice, okay, now as an analyst, we understand, okay, what needs to be done at what point. Okay, so when I say as an analyst, that's how I started my role as an informatician. I used to write requirements for each and every single change, corrections, or and hazards that were posted. We used to write requirements saying that how the software should behave, what is expected out of each click, and on how then each click should respond. So that is the analysis that you do. Okay, then you interpret this analysis into a design document. Okay, so there are different documents that you have to maintain. Okay, and it's always recommended that you maintain the right kind of documentation for the right kind of information. So we will not get into those details, but here it's just an overview. Now anybody who wants to learn and understand the outpatient department workflow, okay, if they see a good picture like this, it should be a story that is told by itself. All right, so the people should be able to correlate, and if they have questions, you should be the point of contact. Or if you are not available all the time, it is your documentation which should be the first point of contact for them. That's where your documentation is quite important, relevant, and it's going to help millions of people across. When I say that, now your document is going to help the developer. The developer will pass on this to the testing team, and the testing team would then go ahead and test it, and the deployment team would exactly know how the workflow is tuned, where what needs to be done, what needs to be installed, and who needs to be leveraged for what particular task. And then the maintenance team would still go ahead and understand, oh, this is how the data has to flow, this is where the pull point is, this is where the fallback is. Okay, so they would understand, and they would go ahead with the right troubleshooting steps. So workflow, as an informatician, I would say, is the most critical part. Okay, you need to ensure that you have good workflows documented. Whatever is the tool of convenience for you, you can use it. Okay, so this is just a graphical representation which I am lured into. Okay, I like this graphical representation. Okay, because sometimes it is self-explanatory, where I have a standard icon for a doctor, standard icon for a nurse. Okay, and if it is a registration clerk, I have a standard icon. So this is all about the standards that you develop while you're working. Okay, so as an informatician, the most important thing, apart from all this, or stands out or should stand out, is a discipline. Okay, so you should be highly disciplined. Okay, the way you start your work, the way you start your day is very important. Okay, so as an informatician, you need to have certain goals set on each day. So these, I would call it as sprints, daily sprints. And then within each sprint, I could have different iterations. I would say the first half of the day I'm going to do this, then the next half, the next quarter, I'm going to do this, and then I wrap up the whole day with summarizing and with communications and everything. So you need to be highly organized, and that would come only when you have a very high rate of discipline. because there are there are situations which would warrant you to jump into discussions. You will be pulled into a new implementation, or there is a disaster, you need to feed into the support staff or to the development group. Okay, so there are these dynamic callouts. So that's where your highly disciplined approach is the most important thing. So when I say documentation, I would just like to add this in the quote. Okay, Outlook is not your documentation tool. Outlook is just a communication tool. You need to have a proper requirements documentation, a proper software manuals that you maintain if you are maintaining it, and if you are doing up any build that you're doing it, reference templates should be ready. Okay, and the release templates should be ready, the workflow documents should be ready. Okay, so there are tons of documents that you can create while doing this particular role. Okay, so this is where I said it, your career is going to shape up in a very incremental fashion. Okay, it's going to be incremental, and it's going to be dynamic and organic. That's the most important quote, I would say. It has to be organic. You go step by step. Okay, so now this is another one, outpatient department workflow. The other one I would like to show you is the day surgery unit workflow. So it's quite self-sufficient. Okay, when you put in a certain amount of effort, okay, and everyone involved would also understand in the same way that you wanted to interpret. Okay, so that's most important. The loss of information, like the famous Chinese whisper. Okay, the loss of information or the transition of information from the source to the destination, if it is not compromised, okay, that is the greatest communication. Okay, that's where your documents come in place, that's where your reference texts come in place, that's where your glossaries, your uh, the basic rules that you create while being an informatician is going to save thousands of man hours. Okay, so as informatician, what else do I need to do? Yes, you can do so many things as an informatician. You can come up with bright ideas. Okay, ideas that could save time for you. Okay, ideas that could save time for others. Sometimes I would say it could save life. Okay, so now we did go through the standard software development lifecycle, then the agile development stages, and then now I would like to just go through what are the related courses. Okay, well, what are the closest related courses which would help me to become informatician. Okay, so if you have to say what are the courses that are required or helpful. Okay, so here you could say these are some of the courses. Okay, I just want to mention that none of these are sponsored. So these are just something which I have noticed in the past, and I have seen people in the same streamline do these courses. Okay, SDLC definitely recommended if you could go through that. Agile methodology has been the most followed or the highly approved methodology for SDLC. So that's a very good process oriented course. PMP, yes, if you really want to understand what are the different phases of a project, and you have a light orientation towards management, you want to go ahead and manage a team, you have the managerial skills, then you can take up PMP. Then CPHIMS, now this is a course that is being certified, I mean being released by HIMS. Okay, so this is healthcare information systems. So they have created the CPHIMS, which has to be renewed every 3 years if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so this is a very good course where this would give you a big insight into what healthcare informatics deals with, and how do you deal with this particular industry. Okay, Certified professional in healthcare quality. If you have a little orientation towards quality, at the end of the day, when you go ahead and see whatever you have developed, okay, there needs to be a good amount of quality coming in place. Now that's where the quality control will play a big role in your changes. So if you have orientation towards quality, I would say yes, you could do this particular course. It would be very, very helpful to do this course. Okay. Then there are several other recommendations like the business process improvement. And as I showed you in the slide, now SDLC has got different steps in the cycle. Now, if you're keen on income, developing or improving the business process, yes, you could do it. Business analysis foundation, very important, because that would be one of your groundbreaking courses where you'll understand what is the importance of requirements, how do you need to document, how do you need to translate, and how the requirements would finally yield to the end solution. Okay, so then you'll understand what is business process modeling too. Then simplifying business processes. Now this is the one of the key factors which you will learn over the course of time as you progress in this particular industry and in this particular role. This is something that you will start focusing on, and you will start understanding that business process improvement is really, really important. Okay. And then would be the digital transformation, and this is the most resonating phrase right now in the industry: digital transformation, AI. Okay, but these are value added contributions, and these courses would give you an insight as to what this particular the model itself is going to help you achieve and deliver. Six Sigma Foundation, as this is also related to quality, but not just healthcare quality, but this is as quality per se. So you will have a very broad overview of what is the quality guidelines, the quality parameters, the attributes of being a good quality auditor. Then, last but not the least, Excel. Yes, from Excel, you have to definitely move to Excel VBA. So, you, as an analyst, as an informatician, okay, you would be dealing with loads and loads of Excel data. Okay, so there was so much of content that you would be processing on Excel. All right, the basic Excel is not going to be very helpful. You need to go learn Excel, learn the advanced Excel, and then move on to VBA. Excel VBA is the way to go, which will help you understand the true potential of Excel, and then you will understand how much of your actual work that you're doing can be automated, the repetitive tasks. Okay, now this is where I would like to really focus on the repetitive tasks that you do in your daily life as an informatician. If you could go ahead and kill the task, okay, and if you could go ahead and automate that particular task, it's nothing like that. Okay, so you would be not only working for yourself, but also you would help your colleagues. Okay, you would help the whole process, the business entity. Okay, you would save thousands of business hours. So in a nutshell, as an informatician, the first step is for you to understand what are you dealing with. You're dealing with software. What are the different steps in creating a software, in maintaining a software, in supporting a software? Okay, then as an informatician, what is your core interest? If you are a person who is towards managerial skills, okay, you need to take the PMP route, and you need to be process oriented and do courses as you transition into this role, and from then you can then leap on to the next role. Okay, but if you're a person who is all about the processes designing, okay, you should get into business process modeling and improvement, and the related courses. But if you're a person who is very keen and wants to make sure you have the right content in the right place at the right time, okay, so you need to focus on doing quality related courses. Okay, so this is where I would leave the discussion, because there's so much to discuss. Okay, this is just a very high level overview. I just wanted to get started with you people. So I just wanted to have my first live session on YouTube. I'm sorry, on LinkedIn. Okay, just to give you an insight of what it is and what I have understood, and what are the best things that I can share with all of you. This is just a kickstart, but we would have some regular sessions, as to say, we would focus into nuclear tasks. Okay, then we would go into requirements capture, requirements detailing. Okay, and how you freeze a requirement, how do you iterate with a requirement. Okay, how do you translate this requirement into technical requirements. Okay, business requirements, how do you analyze them, why do you need to analyze them. We would go into all those details. So I would say, when people are interested, okay, you could definitely let me know. You could ping me, and we could get started with these different tasks. Okay, and then going forward, I would say this should be a very interactive session. I believe in sharing content. Okay, and each one of us on this platform that we have met and we are interacting with, each one of you have unique qualities. Okay, so it's always good when we blend in together and we share qualities. And when you share these qualities, the outcome of each and every person is going to be very, very different and very efficient. That's the most important thing. Now we're talking about efficiency. Okay, me alone doing a task, but if I pick up the good tasks or the good habits from another colleague of mine, I can just surely say yes. Now my life becomes easier, and all of us are doing the same kind of job. So now I would open the floor to if you have any questions. All right, because I've been talking all this while, and I did promise that this will be an interactive session. So please shoot your questions, and I would be glad to take up your questions. All right. So Suresh Kumar is asking this question. May I know the difference between Scrum Master and PMP? All right. So Scrum Master and PMP, as I told you, Scrum Master is all about the agile methodology. Okay. So if you are keen on following the agile methodology and you are into process, a person who's oriented for process, and you want to make sure you lead the technical team or the entire project team. Okay, now this is more of on the technical side. Okay, where you do the the connectivity between the different teams, and make sure the project is in place, make sure the iterations are in place. And this is what a scrum master does. A scrum master is a person who's just like a ring leader. He pulls in the right people in the right places, gives them tasks, okay, and he says, now this task has to be done within this particular time, and if there is an overlap, he would record it, and that's where they create the iterations. Okay, so scrum master is nothing but he's a lead, okay, who would take care of your entire project. Okay, now PMP is a very broader aspect of it. Okay, doesn't come with the same flavor of a scrum master, because scrum master is more on the agile methodology. Now PMP is, I'm a project owner or a management professional, so I would go ahead with the different pieces of the project. The attributes of a project is what I'm going to understand, and then with this I would go ahead and make sure I have the right resources, the right technical expertise, everything. Okay, that's what a project manager does. So getting on to the project management, okay, is not as focused as you would see in a scrum master. Scrum master is a very focused managerial skill, but within the scope of that particular project, or more on the technical side, and more on to getting that particular group of tasks completed. Okay, so this is my understanding, but I would really look in. If anybody's got any other inputs, please do let me know. Okay, and that be I would be happy. And yeah, scrum master and PMP both I have not done. Okay, but this is definitely something I've been planning for quite some time. But it really, it's very difficult when you have to find time, but it's not impossible. Okay, so when you hear people saying that I don't have time, I would blame myself. Okay, saying that it's just the mismanagement of time. So you can never say that I don't have time. I may contradict myself at times, but that is the ground reality. You can never come up and say that you don't have time. With whatever time you have, you need to understand how better you need to manage that. So that is one of the learning qualities, okay, which many of us need to have, and even I need to groom myself with. Definitely, we would come up with some more sessions, and I would have some other um, speakers also come into the session, and we should have a more of focus oriented interactive sessions, the lessons learned. Okay, so we would hear from many courses and many moderators. Okay, but the most important thing is when you have experienced people on your forum. Okay, now that's where it's going to add a little spice for your understanding, and that is what even I would be focusing on. Okay, to have few more people come into the discussion, and hope this forum should continue, and hope we have fruitful outcomes. So I think with that, I would like to say thank you to everyone who have made yourself available on this day or for the introduction session. Means a lot to me because it's my first ever session that I have conducted on LinkedIn, and going forward, I'll try to make it a little more smooth and easy for all of you without all those technical glitches. And the next session, we will announce it well in advance, and we're going to have some promising speakers come forward, and we're going to focus on some real time use cases that was done, and how as an experience trender, okay, how these cases did make an impact. Okay, so we would come up with some use cases and help you understand. All right, so that should be good, and I would just give it a minute or two. Okay, if we have no further questions, then we can call it off.